You can tell her. You can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Hey guys, it's Teresa. You're listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. I'm really excited for my guest today. I'm just going to get right to it. She's so funny. She's from New York City, but she's out here now. She came out here for the CBS Diversity Showcase, and she was just on High Maintenance. You should go check her out. It's Tessa Skara.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? I'm going to read a tweet of yours that I really enjoyed. It reads,
Ooh.
whenever people are like, I can't get into movies with subtitles, they're so hard. I'm like, have you ever tried, and then there's a bunch of ... books?
Honestly, you gave the perfect delivery of that too.
Oh, okay, great. I mean, that's how I read it in my head, was like a very like judgmental, like kind of like, huh.
It's like a judgmental, but it's also like a golden retriever, like books, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, the art of the ... is really, that tweet is very visual. It's
Yes.
it lets you know how she wants to be said.
It's performative.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I've told you this, but the first time I saw you perform was in New York at a bar called Legion. No, is it called Legion? Is there a bar called Legion?
Legion. There's a place called Legion.
I'm like, I used to be there all the time and I can't remember the name.
They used to have an open mic there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but I think this was on a show and you did like a witch character, like a Bushwick witch or something.
Oh my God.
It was so funny. And I like, that's always stuck with me because you have very like your like, I don't know, like your delivery and your performance, like you'll like kind of do this character voice that I think is so funny, and I've never seen something like. I feel like now there's people who probably have copied you because I've seen it more. But this was like over 5 years ago.
Yeah. This was a long time ago that I used to do that.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Thank you. Yeah, that's like a whole like character and song that I did called like Witch in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and this was I think now it's more zeitgeisty to be like crystals, astrology, but like that. I got what that was without even really knowing that world. Like now I feel like, ironically, I am like that for real.
Me too.
Okay, cool. But back then I got the character without even knowing that was a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really funny.
I mean, I love making fun of wellness culture. It's like actually one of my like top 5 things to make fun of, just because I went through like a period of time where I've been in therapy a lot. I know you like to talk about it a lot.
Yes.
This is what the show is about. But like when I first was having like a really, really hard time and like acknowledging that I was, I got really into like wellness stuff. Or like I started to like dip my toe into it and was like, wow, my grandmother had died and that was like part of it. And I was like, oh, I should definitely go and see a psychic. And then like $150 later, I was like, I don't know about this. I still feel sad. Like,
was it like 0 to 60? Had you never like done anything for mental health before that?
It was kind of, the only time I'd ever done anything for my mental health was when it was like ordered by my university that I had to see a therapist or I would be kicked out of college.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty fun. It's really fun what being an alcoholic in college will do for you.
Okay. Wait, where did you go to NYU?
I went to NYU,
okay.
yeah.
I did too. Oh, this is funny. The last couple of guests have all pretty much gone to NYU, but I didn't know any of them while I was there. Before we get too far, I'd like to start with a good confession just to have a positive note. Is there something good you'd like to confess?
Yeah. So something good I would like to confess is that I've watched like pretty much all of Love is Blind in 2 days.
Okay.
And I know that other people might not think that that's a good thing, but I view it as something good.
Does it instill faith and love for you, or what? Like,
No.
what are your thoughts? Okay.
It instills the faith in me that I am like so happy that I'm not straight. I mean, watching all of these straight couples flirt is just terrifying.
Well, they did I didn't watch this, but people keep recommending it. They did Are You the One with all queer people.
Dude,
and apparently it's the best.
I was obsessed with that,
season.
and I even wrote an article on Vulture about it.
Oh, I gotta look it up.
I had a very popular article.
Yeah, so I guess reality show trash transcends sexuality. We're gonna eventually be at a point where it's not. Right now, most of it is very straight.
It's very coded. I mean, I think that we are gonna reach a point where all these dating shows, there's just everything will be fluid, you know, and that's the way that it should be because that's the way that the world is. is. But I mean, it is really, really the Are You the One, the queer Are You the One, I highly recommend.
Okay.
I got so obsessed with it. I started following like all of the people involved in it, like to the point where I was going to viewing parties where they were presenting it.
Oh,
like
wow,
one of the people on Are You the One actually hit on me a lot.
Oh, well, that should be your good confession. I mean, brag. No.
Yeah, humble brag.
I have heard
Remy
some
Durant
of them are
was
around
into it.
comedy. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess it makes
he's into
sense because it's like showbiz, and nowadays, especially in LA, it's like everyone's just in something.
Yeah, everyone's like, well, maybe I could just try stand up and
Yeah.
then
Oh,
people
God.
will want to hire me as an actor. And I'm like, no, it's an art form, but thanks for your concern. You know?
I did almost do a reality dating show about comedians. Like, it was still like I would have been myself on it, but like I'm very thankful it didn't go. I mean, I'm like still like, hey,
what
still
was
hey, if
this
someone wants to cast me
show?
and pay me to do this, I still will do it. So I don't mean like I didn't do it against my will, but it got down to like a very small group of us. But part of me is kind of glad I didn't, just because that would have been how I was introduced to the world.
Was it the reality show where they're traveling?
I'll tell you offline what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I know which one it is, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it did. My note that I got was that I was very chill, and they liked that, but that I should be more aggressively chill in my screen test because I was too chill. And
Aggressively chill?
Yeah. So I don't know how to do that.
But
I think
no
it means
one
that
knows.
I was not rife for drama. So.
Oh my God.
Which is actually, I don't know. I think I don't like drama, but like I do think my life does end up happening upon.
You attract drama.
Yeah, so I think I would be good on a reality show. I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm not trying to brag, but like I think I would have been fine. But like I'm not trying to start shit. You know, I'm not trying.
I
to
would
go
be
on
great
there
on a
for it.
reality TV show.
I think you would be too,
Oh.
but in a good way. You'd be like very fun.
I'm fun,
Yeah.
but I'm also like very, very honest. Like I find it really hard not to tell people how I'm feeling. It's even when I'm in situations like that where I know somebody's going to get upset. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but you need to know. And
That's
it's like,
great.
maybe you should shut up.
That is really good for reality because people want you to like say
Confront.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting better at it. I used to not be like that at all, but now I realize when I don't, things still don't go my way. So now I'm like, well, let me just say how I feel. And sorry if it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. I definitely don't tell people how I feel if it's going to like completely and utterly ruin their lives and upset them.
Oh,
It's
sure.
more of like, if I feel like there's something that I need to say, then I'm
I
gonna
would never
say
be
it.
like, you're bad at singing at karaoke or something. Because I'm like, this is for that. They know.
Yeah.
They're not out there trying to get a record deal.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But have you seen Love is Blind?
I started watching the first episode and then I didn't finish. I know I should.
It's
Okay.
so good.
Well, what makes it different than the other reality shows?
Well, it's all these people who meet when they're sequestered in pods. So
Okay.
like SNL just did this sketch that some friends of mine wrote that's amazingly funny that is about all of them in the pods actually being quarantined because of the coronavirus, which
Oh
I
my
think
God.
is like we're recording this now and by the time it comes out that won't be funny.
Right. Yeah. There will have been more deaths. But
Basically it's all these people who are quarantined and they don't have their phones, they don't have like they're not going to work, they're like just living only with people of the same gender as them, and when they speak with the other people of the opposite sex they go into these little booths.
yeah. So it's
so
like,
they're, like,
it's like
falling
you
in
can't
love.
see the person.
Yeah,
that
they're
you're
going
dating.
on dates but they can't see each other.
But you can hear them.
They can hear them, and then they decide the only way that they can meet in person is if they decide to get engaged.
That's wild.
Right? And like way too many of them decide to get engaged.
Of course.
Way too many.
Because they want to make things interesting if you're on a show. There's also the idea like that they are being watched.
Yes.
So it's like, are they acting honestly?
I mean, it's this whole thing where like it's very obvious that all of them, I mean, what they're saying is that they're trying to figure out if love is blind. But it's like I really think that we're just seeing like how badly all these people want a husband or a wife.
Gotcha. Okay.
You
That's kind
know?
of like how The Bachelor in Paradise felt. Which
That's
I
what-
don't watch The Bachelor, but I watched the last Bachelor in Paradise.
I did
And I got hooked. Actually, speaking of, well, this was very much like, obviously the very highly produced, but they did have, Demi come out on
Yeah.
it and then had her girlfriend.
That's why I
come on.
watched it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like Demi. I think on the season, I watched like a clip of her from her season and she didn't come off very likable, but I like the Paradise because they actually let them be themselves more. So you got to see more of who she really was. And she was like kind of, go for it.
No, I was going to say I'm like burping from
Oh
the
no,
seltzer.
be yourself, girl. Yeah, she seemed like someone who was like telling it like it is. Like she didn't seem like she was trying to do anything she of course is trying to be on a show, But to me, she was like shitting on guys when everyone liked them, and then also just like, you're dumb. Like she didn't care.
I
if
agree.
She came off likable.
I liked her, but then now I follow her on Instagram because duh. And now she's like dating this guy who he just kind of seems like a shithead. Like he seems like
wait, he was on like a housewife show?
I don't know. I could tell that he's also
on
like a reality
like
TV
Slater
person.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
he has a horrible name. Yeah, it's like Slater, Skyler, or something.
Yeah. He's like a walking Hot Topic store.
Yes. But like abs. Just abs and Hot Topic. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. But yeah, I was really into her and Christiana. I think it was
Christiana.
Yeah.
Who I could tell did not want to be there.
No, she didn't want to be there. And she's like just an Earth Mother gay. You can just feel that she was like, I love to be at the beach.
Yeah, she's like, I'm just,
why don't we leave here and go to the farmer's market? And I was like, I love you. I would date her.
Yeah. Would you ever do a reality show?
Would I ever do a reality show?
If someone was like, come be on this show.
God, I don't know if I would. My first reaction is no. But fun fact, my family was actually on a reality TV show in Canada.
Really?
Really insane. It was this is so lame. This is like so Canadian. It was this show on like HGTV, which is Canadian secretly.
Secretly.
It is. It was this show that was like all about making your home more environmentally sound.
Okay.
So like my mom, right? Again, so Canadian, exceedingly Canadian. This is like 2004.
Okay.
And basically they like replaced they like came into our house and like looked like videotaped like everything to do with the house, like the windows and the kitchen and stuff. And like they, calculated exactly how much like energy we use. And then they replaced all this stuff in the house to make it more energy efficient. So basically our house got like completely renovated for free.
That's cool.
That's why my parents signed up to do it.
Oh yeah. Those are the good kind where you actually get something out of it.
Yeah. But they like they measured like how much energy you used like after they did all the renovations, and like we ended up losing off of like against this like elderly retired couple, and my dad was so fucking angry. I remember him in the elevator being like, "It was some bullshit. They didn't even stay in their fucking house. We have 3 fucking kids who won't stop using the shower. How are we supposed to use less water?" Like it was so I was also 14 at the time, and they really my whole family is so competitive. They're all fire signs, and they're all like, go.
What are you?
I'm an air sign. I'm a Gemini.
Oh, okay, cool.
What are you?
Scorpio.
Oh, I love Scorpios.
Yeah, I usually get along with a lot of my best friends are Gemini, so I either really get along with them or we'll crash and burn. Like,
it's because everybody hates us.
Well, Scorpio and that's true. They're the two.
It's because they're jealous of us.
Scorpios do get jealous, so we're probably getting jealous of you guys.
Yeah.
But Geminis are a lot of comedians are, because that's like a very it's the or Mercury, I think, rules that. So a lot of communication, puns. That's one where like
I'm definitely not a pun comedian, so that one doesn't ring true.
Well, it's weird that like astrology, whatever you may think of it, like a lot of it can be broad, but then when Gemini is one sign that I've read up on where it's like so specific sometimes where I'm like, what? It'll be like I've literally read one that said like, you're good at puns, and my ex was a Gemini, and he did puns nonstop, and I'm like, wait, how would you literally be like, you wear the color blue? Like it's like
I definitely
so
like
specific.
I love wordplay. I sincerely do. I love like that. I mean that tweet.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love things that are like visually with just the words on the page, like funny.
That's fun. I feel like Scorpio, I don't know, I do feel very Scorpio, but I with the Scorpio connotation is that we're obsessed with like darkness and death, and I don't know that I feel if that's true. I guess if I were to reach deep down, I'm like, yeah, death doesn't, like, it fascinates me, but I don't consider, I think I'm a bright, cheery person, which when I think of Scorpio, I think of like very dark and like brooding. But
I do know a lot of Scorpios that are like that, but also I feel like it can just be like Scorpio to me can be so much more about being like obsessive, which Gemini to me is also like kind of like that. Like I get really obsessed with things. I get obsessed with like the search for knowledge. Like, if I'll just spend like all night reading Wikipedia.
That's very Gemini.
Yeah. Extremely, so I'm like, I need to know everything about this.
I feel like, they're similar, but Gemini, you'll like, you'll move on right away. Like you'll be like, I changed my mind. And then Scorpio's like 20 years later, like, remember that thing I said I was going to do? Yeah. I've been working on it for the last 20 years.
Yeah. I would never do that. I would never do that. No. I'm more like, I just learned everything about the United States political system. Like,
I'm moving on.
I'm Canadian, so it's like.
How long have you lived in the States?
I've lived in the U.S. for 10 years, over 10 years.
You moved
actually.
for school?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, and then I stayed. I actually got married for a green card, which
Oh,
was
okay.
interesting, fun. Well, we were in a real relationship, but we got married quicker because of that. Which, hey, hopefully nobody carts me off.
Well, you know, this has been a sting, so
yeah, right.
Is a sting. But okay, well, I kind of want to go back to a little bit of the therapy talk, and then we'll go into the confession because this is sort of inspired by therapy. So you said like you really like talking about wellness and all that. How did you go from sort of like parodying it to doing it to like now where you are, or tell us where you are, I guess, with your journey of like mental health and all
totally that. Wow. Oh, I love. I feel like I didn't start parodying it until after I was like so involved in it.
Okay. So it came from like kind of looking at yourself.
I mean, for me, it was basically, gosh, this story is like inextricable from like kind of leading into my secret.
Oh, cool.
Which is great.
Well, we get into it, then we get into it.
Yeah, right. But basically, when I was younger, I didn't think that I was queer, and I got into a relationship with somebody who we then ended up getting married. And then when I was in the process of like in that marriage, I was like, I don't want to be with him anymore. And
How old were you when you guys got married?
We got married when I was like 20. I was just about to turn 23 in like a month. I was 22.
Wow. Okay.
And then we got separated like just shy of 2 years later.
Okay.
And then we didn't get divorced for another like 2 years.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because it was like hard to do that.
Were you out at NYU?
No.
Okay. Me neither.
No.
Well, I like my senior year I started questioning, but I identify as like, I guess I say queer now, but bisexual is sort of how I came out.
I mean, that's like really at the end of the day, like I believe that most queer people are like fluidly on a spectrum. Like I am fluidly on a spectrum, and I identify now as a lesbian because I don't want to date men, but also like I acknowledge that like the reality of my sexuality is like I did have relationships with men that I really care for and like that were enjoyable. So like bisexual is probably a more accurate description of me, but like I kind of choose to be gay, which is crazy to say, but it's true, and we can do that. We're allowed to do that.
Yeah, straight people choose not to have fun all the time. So it's their choice, and that's their right.
But yeah, isn't it crazy though that like, I mean, I don't know about you, but where I grew up, I was just like so repressed that like I didn't even think that I knew any lesbians, and I definitely did.
Yes, there were like, well, I grew up in the Bay Area, so it's a pretty liberal area, but the 90s I don't think were very favorable to like queer women, at least not in the mainstream media. Obviously there's always been like niche stuff, but because even like the L Word was like the biggest show, and that's so like so stereotypical. You know what I mean?
It's so
like,
male gazy.
Very, yeah. And I knew like gay men, and I danced, so I knew a lot of like, and I knew a lot of gay people, but I feel like the term lesbian still felt like an insult, even if it didn't feel like it. Like even if I would never use it to. Like I would never use it as an insult. It still felt like more of an insult than the word gay did, if that makes sense. Yeah. Which is so weird, like thinking about that.
Because a lesbian is like, you are, when you think about like the patriarchal structure of our society, it's like if you're a lesbian, you're completely outside of that structure.
Yes, you don't need men.
No.
And they don't like that.
And they don't like that at all. Yeah. They really fucking don't like that.
But one of the girls, like the cool girls, I guess popular girls in my elementary school that I grew up with, we ended up going to different high schools, so it wasn't like she was necessarily popular in elementary school, but she was like really cool and rich and whatever and very beautiful, and she ended up coming out, and I like had looked her up on social media like years later and was like, oh my god, she's like in Paris with some hot model, and I'm like, damn. Yeah, and I was like, damn, there are lesbians everywhere, and they're all the cool ones.
Yeah,
like all
well,
the cool
that's
girls.
The thing is like you think that you're gonna come out and then like automatically all queer people are gonna accept you and be like, yeah, I would love to date you, and the reality is they're like, no, show me your references, like where's your resume. I need to
I'm
phone
like,
tree
damn,
this.
This is hard. Everything's hard.
Everything is hard. I mean, I also grew up dancing, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Because you were musical theater, and now I feel
studied
like I
musical
vaguely
theater,
do know stuff about you, which is weird. But I'm like, I think
What did you study at NYU?
I studied screenwriting. I feel like, did you do the reality show?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's why in my head I kind of, in the back of my head I knew that, and that's how I connected it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did that. That was like, I did that for like years there. That was
Yeah.
like how I got into comedy, basically. It was like a musical that NYU would put on that this amazing woman, Liz Swados, was the director of, and all the students would like, that she cast in it would act in it as well as write it.
Okay.
So that was the first time anybody like encouraged me to write.
And Doug Wydick
Was on it.
Yeah.
Oh, we love
He was just
Doug.
at the wedding I was at. Yeah.
He was?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's so funny.
Dougie.
It's so funny how NYU, I like really felt like it cast me into the like darkness of being alone after college. And
Oh, for
now
sure.
like a decade later, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess we all are all still here doing stuff.
Well, NYU is a real estate company. It's true.
Yeah,
That's
true.
like a lot of really ambitious, driven people go to because you're like, oh, like I should go here because like I'm close to the industry that I want to work in already. And then you like go into so much more debt than you would if you went to a different school. But you go there and then they just like churn you out, and then you're not.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, every 2 weeks we'll send you a newsletter that has career opportunities, and none of them are real. It's like, it's offensive.
Yeah, if anyone's listening and wants to go to NYU because you hear people go there, here's what I think I would do if I had another shot. Is I think there's still benefit in being around a university and going to being in New York, but I think you should get a job at NYU. If you're like 18 years old and you're like, I know for sure I want to be in the industry, and you don't want to just move to New York because it's scary.
It's scary.
Get a job at a university like NYU, so you're getting paid, you'll make friends, you'll be in the network, and then you don't fucking have to pay for school.
Well, yeah. Also, if you work at NYU, you can go there for free.
Oh,
I know
okay,
people
yeah.
who did masters there who did it like
there
that.
you go. So do
But
it that way.
also, I feel like personally, it's like if you really want to study the arts and you don't care about having a degree, like don't go
need
fucking get a degree.
Yeah.
There were so many people in the acting program who were like, we're all gonna take divorce in America so we can share our notes. And I'm like, are you stupid? Oh yeah, you are. Like, it's insane to me. Like, I wanted to go there partially because of like the academic program there, and like every other program I was looking at, I would be going for like 2 years and not actually going to school.
Yeah,
You know,
I
It was
did
like a
really like
conservatory.
want to be. I did want that experience too, like college, and I had like I way overexerted myself, but I had like a double major and a minor. And,
Me
yeah.
too. I had a double major
what was
for a
it?
while. I had a double major in English for a little bit, but then I didn't end up graduating with it because I graduated early so that I could save money.
Well, we're talking about advice. Why don't we get into the confession, and then we'll like. I'm sure we'll touch on more stuff that if there's any more questions we haven't answered. So Tessa, is there anything you'd like to tell me?
Yeah. So I want to tell you that my current girlfriend is my first real girlfriend ever.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
which I've
exciting.
never really talked with anyone about.
How long have you guys been together?
We've only been together for oh wow, I guess we started dating in
you added the
August.
only. It's like there's no right or wrong answer to this.
Oh no, but I mean like I've just been out for a long while, and so
Gotcha.
this is like my first actual relationship with a woman, and that's like a big deal for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's interesting. But we've been dating since August, so I guess oh my god, it's so embarrassing that I can't do math. September,
8 plus 4.
almost 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, I think it's 6
congratulations.
months. Thank you.
So that in straight people years, that's 3 years.
Yeah, it's about 3 years, I'd say.
How did you guys meet?
We met at a comedy show.
Okay. Well, you were performing?
No, actually.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't performing at that one. I was going to see my friend. And she is friends with another comedian. She like does comedy, but she's not like a professional comedian like me. And so it's been like a really great relationship. She's a designer.
That's awesome.
She designs children's books. But I mean, the thing is for me is that like I was married and then I left that marriage and like came out to my family and stuff. And then for a long while, I just had like such bad luck in dating where it was like, it kind of felt like I just got gayer and gayer and and everyone just kind of like would assume that like if I was talking about an ex or something that like I was talking about a woman, but like at the end of the day, like I don't know, as soon as I started trying to date only women, it was like, I realized that like there are so many female fuckboys. Like, like you don't stop dating men, or like just because you're not dating men doesn't mean that you don't stop dating fuckboys. Like the call was coming from inside the gender the entire time. Like it's bad.
Yes, that's very true. That's also interesting because it seems like you were like sort of still in your journey to coming out. So it's like you it's hard to date whether or not you're, you know, straight or gay, but like if you don't know yourself, right? If you're like, even if you're like, I want to paint and now I'm getting better at painting, like anything like that, if you're on a journey, you're changing rapidly while you're trying to get to know someone and yourself. So I could see how that could be like, you know, make it more difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult. I was like, I wasn't in anything that could be considered a long-term relationship for like 4.5 years.
Gotcha. Were you looking for a relationship?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, I definitely was, but in a lot of ways I was also like going on like a really extreme mental health journey.
Sure.
That like really needed a lot of me time. So I am really happy that like I didn't find anyone to like love me then.
Well, how did that all I know we kind of hinted at it earlier, but so like you were going to psychics and then coming out, was that around the same time?
Yeah, it was like around the same time. Yeah, I was like, when I got divorced, my grandmother, or I like left my husband, we didn't get divorced for another like 2 years, but my ex-husband and I separated, and then my grandmother, who I was very, very close with, died like only like not even 6 months later. Thanks, but it was like really to have all these things happening at once. It was pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so that's like around when I started to like, you know, actually like delve into mental health stuff, because I was like, oh, something bad is going to happen to you if you don't start to figure this out. And I had just always had so many issues with anxiety and depression, but I just didn't want to even acknowledge them. So once I started to like acknowledge different parts of myself and my sexuality, then it was like, oh, you can't like not acknowledge this stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started seeing a therapist. I saw the same therapist for like almost 4 years until I came here.
That's a committed relationship.
It was a really committed relationship. Oh my God, Jeanette. Oh, I loved Jeanette. I wrote a song about Jeanette.
Aw, that's so nice.
She went on maternity leave for 5 months, and it like ruined my whole life.
Oh no.
It was so hard.
Yeah, it's hard to, once you connect with the therapist. I had a like art therapist in New York, and when I moved, I like was so upset because it just was so, I mean, it was like the fact that I was an art therapist and she also specialized in like children, because I was just like, so I don't know. She like took me because I hadn't gone as a kid. So I was like, she's like, okay, we'll work with you. It seems like you have a lot to do, but yeah, I'm like my therapist now, but it took a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, this psychic thing made me think of something, because I also really like going to fortune tellers and psychics. And I do feel like a part of me when I was like, I don't know if I ever felt like I was fully closeted, because I just like, didn't know, and then all of a sudden I was questioning.
But that's how I felt too, is like closeted feels like the wrong word, because I just didn't have enough like acknowledgement of myself or knowledge of myself to even be closeted.
Yeah, it wasn't like I was denying it, but looking back I clearly was. But during that time I feel like I was really fascinated with like the occult and like discovering things from the stars. And I think subconsciously I was trying to discover something about myself. Like it felt like something was missing, and almost felt like if I just like, play this game enough, I'll find out a big secret and it'll tell me who I am. When really I think I was just searching for the answer that was within me all along.
Yeah. I mean, I think that part of why I got into all of that stuff is because of that. Like I just got really into occult stuff, like believing that I do think that there is like that people don't just like leave. Now I'm getting really I'm getting like really weird.
No, we have all sorts of belief systems on this pod, and that's definitely not the weirdest though.
I mean, I just think that like you still can connect with like the energy of people after they die. And I do think that like everyone is psychic and like intuitive, but we just have to be able to like tune into it. I don't think that there's like a fate of like that everything is already predetermined that will already happen. But I've just had so many weird things happen in my life
Can you give an example?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I met somebody in a dream once before I met them in real life, like stuff like that. Like when I was like going to college, like I got into NYU and I was like, well, I can't even afford like to pay like a fraction of any of this, and then like my family came into like some money like really unexpectedly that was able to like pay for part of my college, literally the day before I had to tell NYU if I could go.
Oh wow.
So like things like that where I'm like, oh, if I'm meant for this to happen, then it's gonna happen. Like even coming to LA, like a few days before I had to decide if I was gonna come here, I was pretty set on not coming. Okay. And then I found a person who wanted to trade apartments with me, and like and it was like off of the subway that I could take to get to work and all this stuff where I was like, oh, this is like a sign.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Maybe that's like silly, but I guess what I'm saying is sometimes things just like really unexpectedly work out for me when they are going to be a good thing for me. And when they're not going to be a good thing for me, they unexpectedly like completely collapse.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's silly. And I don't think it's like, it's not as simple as it's not like, oh, like, you're controlling it, but I think you're right. It's the universe will push you in the direction you're supposed to go. But sometimes we can like train ourselves to listen better. Yeah. If that makes sense. And it seems like you're really in tune with like trusting those signs and trusting your intuition. And some people will like ignore red flags, which I did for a long time. And then you'll keep getting the same lesson over and over until you're like, okay, I guess now I have to learn it. Yeah. So now I'm more like, I think how you're describing, where as soon as I feel any inkling of like, this doesn't feel right, even if I can't quite name it,
you just have to trust that. Yeah. Because even if there's nothing about it that's making it like actionably wrong, your feeling of not liking it is like enough.
Yes.
That's something that I've had to take a long time to learn.
Well, I also like the flip side, what you said, like it doesn't work out if it's not meant to be, because it helps you let go of failures too. Because,
for sure.
Yeah, there's things that, in showbiz you don't get all the time. And of course you can still be sad, but it helps to be like, you know what? This isn't meant to be. And then the next time you get something, you're like, oh, well, see, this is where I was supposed to be all along.
Yeah. So like I dated somebody right before my current girlfriend that like, I really thought that it was going to be like a long-term relationship. And then it like completely imploded like a few months before I met my girlfriend. And at the time I was like, this is so horrible. And like, this wasn't meant, this was bad. And then as soon as I met my girlfriend, a bunch of my friends kept on being like, she wasn't right for you. And like, this is going to lead you to meet somebody who is right for you.
And you're like, easy for you to say.
Exactly. I was like, shut the fuck up. Jessica. No. And
that's not her name. I just made up a name. No.
And then I like met my girlfriend and I was like, oh yeah. We also met each other. Like we had been in the same like communities for like a long while, probably like over a year. Okay. And had a lot of mutual friends, and we didn't meet one another until like 3 weeks before I moved to LA.
It's so perfect. What a fairy tale.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
So what's it been like? Because this is your first relationship with a woman. But obviously you've been married to a man. So do you feel like there was a learning curve, or just in terms of being like in a relationship? Okay.
I mean, I think that like not having been in a relationship for a long while, being in a relationship was hard.
And also you were so young the first time you were in a relationship. I don't know. I've never it takes me a long time to get into a serious relationship. I've never been, I think, in a serious relationship. I had been in relationships where I thought they were serious at the time, and I look back and they probably weren't. Yeah. But I feel like
me too.
Yeah, I know, right? Because there's times, and then there's times where I'm like, this is so serious, and then later I'll like find out that person I was not even counted in their list of, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh fuck, man, I gotta look at myself. But I feel like now I'm getting better at knowing what I want, and I do think I do date both men and women, but when I date women, it tends to be a little easier for me to like get to the like what I want to say right away, and I'm now taking that energy into dating men too, which is cool. Like I used to, not that it's on the men, like this is all me. Yes. But I used to stop myself from saying how I felt with men more than I did with women.
Well, because there's like a culture in like the different dating scenarios where like when the genders are matched differently, it's like like two men, we have an idea of what that dating situation is like. Two women, and then like a man and a woman, and we like bring that into all these relationships even when you're sexually fluid. I feel like
we kind of like I've heard it described as like you kind of lose your identity, like like if you're bi specifically and you're with a man, you kind of feel like you're in a straight relationship, and if you're a woman, you're in a gay relationship, but you are the same.
Yes.
So now I try to bring my whole energy into every relationship and find someone who likes that. So yeah, I guess I also write more poems now to people, which is embarrassing. But I used to would make fun of that about myself, but it's how I am. Like I like to be earnest sometimes.
That's so Scorpio.
But I'll do that. I'll do that to men, and I think they're not used to it. But I'm like, well, this is who I am, so I'm gonna write you a love note, and just let me treat you like you're my queer lover. Because I'm that way.
Well,
so.
I think that there is like a whole idea that like at least when you're dating men, that like there should be kind of like a chase going on, and like you can't let them know exactly how you feel. And then with two women, it's like, how do you feel?
Let's
tell
talk
me
about our feelings.
Oh wow, that's so hot. And it's like there is like a learning curve. But also I feel like when I say that I don't feel like they were different, I feel like dating men and women isn't that different. But I do feel like me dating just in general now is different because I know myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't know myself before. You're
not trying to use other person as a mirror.
Yeah.
Because you like have and I think performing helps too, because it's like every day you have to get on stage and have a version of yourself be presented to the world. So like you better figure out what that is.
Oh my God. Doing comedy helped me know myself so much more actually, because you have like a space to define yourself in.
Yeah.
Like as a queer person, especially as like a sexually fluid person, like when I was still in my marriage, like I knew I was starting to know, I knew that I was bi, and I was like talking about it on stage. And so like being able to talk about those things where like you said, when you are bi, when you're in a relationship, people automatically assume you being whatever, like straight or gay, when the reality is that it's much more complicated than that. And you get to like control the conversation when you're on stage, which is great.
That's true. Yeah, I used to feel more self-conscious about it. I don't now, but like I don't know if you feel this way, especially like doing showcases, like having to play to a certain identity as opposed to just being yourself. Like I don't know if this makes sense. Like if I have a lot more stories about dating men because I was just like it was just long, like I was just out less time than whatever. So like more of my life I've spent dating men, and also I have more like bad stories, and they're funnier.
So me too. Actually, I have a lot more funny stories about dating men.
But then sometimes what happens is I'll talk for a whole set about like dating, and then I'll start to feel like, oh, like now, like if I say I'm bi, it's like weird, or if I talk about a girl, suddenly it's weird, so I have to like explain up top.
But I also think that those are like our perceptions of things, and I think that biphobia is very real. And we like internalize that. But I mean, back to your point of like having to define yourself and label yourself for like an industry, it is actually like really maddening. I mean, as somebody who has gone through like lots and lots and lots of different labels, I really feel comfortable like using a lot of different labels for myself. And I don't think that makes me like less queer in my whole identity and like less queer in my experience. And I think that like all of these like, I mean, quote unquote, like diversity initiatives, it's like they want you to define yourself so incredibly specifically so that they know like what boxes to check off when they give you a job. It's true. But like the reality is that like real people aren't labels. So like we should retain that whatever we do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I like I said, I identify now as a lesbian and as gay, but also like I can change my mind anytime I fucking want.
Yeah, very Gemini.
Yeah, it is. It is very Gemini, but also like that is my truth. And like I do feel like at the end of the day, like I just have never had good emotional relationships with men, and like I've never, or really sexual ones. So like being only dating women has made me feel like so much better in my life. And I feel like that's like my true self. So it's complicated though.
Yeah. But that's so good. And it's having a partner who like gets comedy and understands that life is like so important, because it's like you're figuring out who you are sometimes on stage too. And it's like they're part of your life, but also like your comedy audience is part of your life.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes I think about that where I'm like, oh, well, all these people like saw me before and I talked about this relationship. So now I need to tell all of them that like I'm in a different relationship or whatever. And it's like, no, this audience doesn't remember you fucking, you're like, there's something about comedy and like the way that we like police ourselves too. That's like so narcissistic.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, well, I have to tell everybody everything. And it's like, no, you don't, bitch. Nobody
That's so
cares.
funny. This came up on a recent episode with Jonathan Braylock, but
because
I was saying that I feel like sometimes when I grow, I have to like update my audience, but they just want to hear punchlines. Like,
no, they
it's
just want to
fine.
hear punchlines.
They don't care.
No, exactly. They truly don't care. They just want to hear punchlines. But I do think that there's something like magical when comedians are able to speak from their real lived experience, like as they're going through it. Like we see that with like the Tig special that went, or the set that went like viral, you know, like when somebody is really speaking from the heart about something that they're actively going through, like that's so hard to do.
Yeah, totally.
It's so hard to do, but it's so like, it touches people when it's a real like authentic experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. So your girlfriend's not in comedy, but is like around it. So how much like is she a part of your shows? Like, does she come to your shows? Do you talk about your relationships on stage?
She comes to my shows. We definitely talk about I've talked about our relationship on stage, like not super extensively, but I'll like definitely like talk about it and kind of make fun of it a little bit. And she is like super involved in like, she loves to read things that I'm writing.
Oh, that's great. I was gonna say, how does she feel about?
Oh, she
like,
loves
jokes
it.
and stuff. Okay,
she loves it.
I mean, I would assume so, but
she like loves when I like rehearse things for her. Honestly, this is like so perfect for a comedian because I always feel like so crazy and narcissistic where I'm like, I guess I just need to put this down. But then it's like she actually wants to hear about what I'm working on. Yeah. And she like actively helps me on things that I'm working on.
That's so great.
It's really wonderful.
I love that. Yeah, I think like being able to do jokes about a relationship is so important because it's like, it's not about, I think there's two camps of people. There's people who feel like if you're talking about me at all, it feels like insulting. And then there's people who are like, I love what you do. You're a comedian. That's why I like you. And so like, watching you do your art is so cool, whether it's not about me, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, that's always been tricky, I feel like, with comedian relationships.
It's really tricky. And I've dated people who are like, don't talk about me on stage or whatever. And it's like, okay, I mean, sure. But like, I'm never going to like actively make fun of somebody that I'm dating on stage, although I have after I've broken up with them. But
I think anything's fair game and you just have to trust that you're a good person.
Yeah.
And then if you cross a line, then it's like communicate. But generally speaking, like you're not a bad person. So you're not out there trying to hurt people. And like, but people get hurt every day, all the time. Like it could be as simple as like, I didn't like that shirt and that could hurt you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I think you have to try to come from a truthful place without trying to like censor yourself. I don't know. That's where I stand. But I'm also like, I don't know. I'm sure I've hurt people without realizing it. So
I've definitely hurt people's feelings. I've definitely hurt people's feelings. But in my personal opinion, like as long as I'm speaking from my own experience and I'm not saying like this person is a piece of shit, like, and I can say like they really hurt me, then that's fine to me. And I don't really care what other people think.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're successful.
So that's a good thing. Well, the other secret that I was like considering dropping that I'm like, I'll just add this one in here is that when I was leaving my ex-husband, I actually created a feminist book club in order to get closer to a woman that I had a crush on. Whoa. Yeah. But I've talked about it before a bunch of times. So I was like, I've told people that. But it's like, it is tea. And it was like, I mean, I just needed like a reason to hang out with her. And because we only knew one another through like a bar that I would go to.
Was she openly gay?
No.
Okay. So you're like, I have a crush on this person.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna feel it out.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm gonna feel it out, but I got like a big queer vibe from her. And like, it turns out that like she totally is, but like still isn't really openly queer, which kind of sucks. And it didn't end up leading to a relationship for us, but we did end up hooking up.
Okay, well, there you go.
There you go. But it was like so sneaky of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, vibes are real. Like, I mean, it's because even when I was not out, there were women that I hung out with who also weren't out, and now we're both out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's like didn't come from nowhere.
Oh, I mean, I like you said before that you danced. Like
Yeah.
so many of the girls in my dance classes with me are gay now. Like, and we all hung out together last time I went home for Christmas, and we're like, wow, isn't it crazy like that we're all queer? Yeah, but then when you think about it, it's like, no, like you chose to spend a lot of your extra spare time hanging out with a bunch of girls wearing leotards. Like, duh. Like, wake up.
I feel that way about models because like I know there is a lot of male gays with the fashion industry, and that is real and exists. So I don't want to like diminish that, but I feel not diminish. Oh, I don't want to like reduce, you know, like because you see a lot of imagery that's like very queer, but it's also for the man. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I also think a lot of women who are in the modeling industry are queer because, and now they're starting to come out more because there's more like publicly gay people like Cara Delevingne.
Yes. Oh, I love her.
So but they've always been there because you spend so much time putting value on the female body and looking hot, and that's, or like traditionally hot. You're told that's what society values, and you value it, and you're around other women who look like that. Like, who are you gonna go for? Like,
I mean, if the movie Gia taught us anything.
Oh, I didn't actually see it.
You've never seen it?
Okay.
Oh my god, it's Angelina Jolie playing this like supermodel who I've never heard of named Gia, who like she has a lot of trouble. She has trouble with drugs, with having a lot of eyeliner. Like she's very troubled.
Tough,
right?
The
but
raccoon eyes.
she has like her like main relationship in the movie, if I remember correctly, I haven't seen it in a long time, is with a woman. That it's like kind of like the crux of like the love story in that movie. My girlfriend and I tried to watch it the last time she was in LA, and we couldn't find it streaming. Like, I don't know why, and I'm so upset. I really need to watch it. Okay, so
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I hope it's up
Jolie.
now.
Okay,
Angelina Jolie is such a queer icon. It's like absurd. It's absurd. I don't know if she's like out as bi, but I feel like she is, right?
She seems like she's just, but she's just kind of like her own thing.
Yeah.
I feel like she is a sexuality.
Yeah.
Because I also didn't she like
she's dated
or something too?
Yeah,
so like a lot of
she's made out with her brother, which is very queer. She also has like carried the blood of a man on her body.
Yes,
which is also very gay.
Yeah. Just like obsessed. I'm gonna die in your arms
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, I think that she did. God, I feel like she dated a supermodel, though.
I feel like she's definitely dated women. I think kind of going back to like the 90s media, like I don't think they presented queer relationships the way they do now, which is just like as a relationship.
Yes.
I think if they presented it, it was like a scandal, like what's Lindsay Lohan doing now?
Oh, well, I was literally just going to bring up the Lindsay Lohan thing.
And it was like a whole thing, but instead of just being like,
she like dated Samantha Ronson. And now, I don't know if you know this, but how caught up are you on Lindsay Lohan?
Well, Lindsay and I have a weird checkered past. Not really.
What?
But kind of. I have a very weird story, which I won't get too into now, but I met her once and I got really trashed and embarrassed myself. So I kind of stay away from Lindsay news, but you can tell me what's going on with her.
Well, she had like this whole reality television show, which again, I'm completely obsessed with reality television.
Or does she have a British accent on it or something?
No, so she hasn't lived in America for like, I don't know, like 5 years or something. And now she's like, oh, I have a, like, she talks like she's from Dubai. She has this like very muddled, like Middle Eastern kind of Greek accent where she talks like English is her second language. And it's very confusing. And it's like, Lindsay, you're from Long Island, like fully. But she on her show, like even talks about how she's like not bi.
Oh.
Like she identifies as straight, even though she had that like
really?
very public relationship with Samantha Ronson. I think it might be on the after show where they like asked her questions about it, and she was like, "Oh no, I don't know what to say about that." You know, like just
that's a bummer.
It was such a bummer.
Also, I think Miley had something like that recently where she came out as straight again. Like,
what?
Yeah, I think.
What are these girls doing?
I don't know. And it was like you don't need to come out straight. You can just be with a man. Like, you don't need to be like, just kidding, that thing I did. Like I
fully don't understand that.
Yeah. But it does shine more. Like I will say, like, to take them off the hook a little, because these are both two women who kind of grew up in the media, because I don't want to be too hating on them, because I think a lot of it is not necessarily, like they didn't necessarily have the tools to be aware.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just shit on them. I think that's a representation of maybe the world not being ready to just accept relationships for what they are. Like I feel like going back to labels, like it still feels like they feel like they have to label themselves. And so maybe they want to stay away from the queer community because they're trying to do more stuff for the straight community or whatever, right? Like which shouldn't be
do more stuff for the straight community.
Right, they really need
they have
help.
so much, they need our help.
They want to represent the straight community because you know they're underrepresented. But I don't know, I think maybe it comes from that, like, oh, now I want to market to them, so I'm gonna have to like renege on my identity.
Miley does that shit all the time. I feel like she's very like, oh, I'm 420 girl, but now here I am singing on a beach in Malibu about God. And it's like, make up your fucking mind. You can't have it both ways. But like in a way where politically you can't have it both ways. You can be sexually fluid. That has nothing to do with this shit.
Right.
But like you can't say like you can't like start a foundation for like LGBTQ kids and like homeless youth and then like kind of play willy-nilly with your identity. You know, it's a little bit like, I mean, I believe that we should cut these people some slack, but also like Miley is an adult now. And like we've seen her be in relationships with women, and it's kind of setting a bad example to like come out as like, I don't want labels about my gender, and then be like actually straight all the way. Like
I don't know, I have to look up the quote because it may not have been, I don't know that she's so blatantly said she was straight, but she definitely like implied that it was like that was a phase, like that kind of thing, which is like, oh yeah, because imagine if I came out and was like, no, I'm over skaters now. Like it's like we don't do that to anything else except for like genders, which I mean I guess it's easier for me to say because but liking both men and women, I don't separate it and there isn't a line. But I guess for straight people, I really do feel like they live in a cage. I mean, like it's a prison. Straightness is a prison because you have these lines that you're like, I can't cross it no matter what. Ooh, I got close. Oh no, I better stay on this side of this line. Whereas, like, you don't do that for like anything else. You might start dating a surgeon if you've never dated a surgeon. You're like, guess I date surgeons now.
Yeah,
like, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me personally, it's like when I define myself and I like whittle down my identity, I'm not trying to like cut away all of those other parts. I'm trying to be like more specific in how I describe myself. But that for me,
I don't mean like in terms of you saying you're lesbian. I think more specifically when straight people say they went through a phase.
Yes. Yeah. But that's what I mean is that like I want to explain that for like anyone listening, that it's like it's more of a thing of like trying to identify yourself more clearly versus like renouncing anything that ever happened in your life. Like I would never renounce any of the relationships that I had with men. Yeah. And that's like, cause the reality is that I did, and they were great, some of them. Yeah. So it's just, you know, the idea when straight people renounce relationships that they've had with same-sex partners that as like a phase, it renounces bisexuality really. Yeah. And that's what's frustrating about it.
That's true. And it's also mean to those people they had relationships with. I have straight friends who have and they identify straight who have like hooked up with the same sex, and then but they're so open about it. Like I think I think it comes down to like respect and the way they talk about it. You can tell whether they're trying to like suppress something versus they've explored and they're like, oh, you know what? I tried this. It's not for me. So I'm straight. But they're so open that I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. So you just know what you like. Yeah. And it's not about being like, no, I just kidding. Like, yeah, there's this like urgency to, I don't know.
Because straightness needs to be upheld, you know? Yeah. It's just like whiteness. It's like, it's something that is like a tiny little pearl that it's like, if you can't have anything come in, or then it's not that anymore. And I feel like that's why like white heterosexual people, like that is like its own little culture that cannot be permeated. That like, if you deviate outside of it, then it is like a renouncing of the entire thing. It really is to do with like supremacy, I feel. Now that we're like really getting into it.
I mean, I never thought about that way, like of straightness being like a pearl, but like it's arbitrary. It's
that's why we don't see as many openly bisexual men, I feel like, because it has a lot to do with gender. It has a lot to do with patriarchy.
I love bisexual men. I've talked about it before, and I think it's like, and I've dated a lot, and I think that they just tend to be more open, and not because they're bisexual, but I think there's something more accepting if in a society, like you said, like not because it's like not super, what's the word? It's not that it's better or worse, but it's because men put that, you know, stigma on each other. So if you're so open about it, like you're probably much cooler about certain things too.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah.
No, I love bisexual men. I feel like there needs to be more visibility about bisexual men, because again, it's like a thing where the reason why there is stigma around it is because like masculinity is something to be upheld. You know what I mean? It's like, it's something that we've had like a strong definition of for so long that like being bisexual in like a traditional sense like negates that idea of masculinity.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that it is really radical to be a bisexual man.
Yeah. And I have a lot of hope for the younger generation. So we'll see what happens in like 10 years. But I think Gen Z is like growing up where if in my generation, I guess our generation, it was a lot of like you start as straight and then you have to discover if you even felt different. It took a lot of work to figure out what you were outside of that.
Well, we have to come out.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas like, why don't straight people have to come out?
Yeah.
Like one of my friends told me this a long time ago. They said, I always assume that everyone else is gay until proven straight. And when I was coming out, I started to like, that thought actually like really helped me.
Yeah.
Because then I felt like, because before, like, especially when you're first coming out, you kind of feel like you have to come out in every single scenario so that people can even like have any idea of who you are, because everyone there's presumed heterosexuality everywhere.
Yeah. And if you're bi too, especially because you can flirt with a man and then all of a sudden like, what if you're interested in that girl? You gotta let her know. Like somehow, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also if you're in a relationship, you have to consistently come out constantly.
Yeah. I had that struggle when I first came out because I was in New York, or when I was questioning, because I didn't know. I was like, how do I know which woman in this room would be into me? But then I was like, how do I know which men would be into me? None of them, maybe. Like, so like I should just go for it and let them reject me. And then that helps, because I used to be like, oh, that girl reads as straight. But then I'm like, so did I. Like at the time, I had a notion of what straight was, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just got over that and just started like talking to people I liked. And then that made things way easier. But yeah. Oh, I did have one more question. Oh, I wanted to ask about your girlfriend. About, like, had she had relationships before, and has she been out for a long time, or are you guys sort of in a similar place?
No, so she's been out like since she was a teenager.
Okay.
And has like only been in relationships with like non-cis men, so like women and non-binary people. So we have like very different experiences in that way, which is actually,
so you're like the Demi and she's the Christiana.
Yeah. Oh my God, I really hope that Christiana's like a gold star lesbian. Yeah, I mean, it is it's funny, my girlfriend's actually 4 years younger than me, and I feel like we're like, well, she's like very mature and responsible. Like I'm turning 30 soon, and I feel like she's
congratulations.
Like, oh, thank you.
On getting through your Saturn return.
Thank you. Exactly. I'm going through it right now. But I feel like she's like even more like responsible than me. But in a lot of ways, I feel like because I went through like so much emotional turmoil and had so many years that were just like me kind of trying to deal with my mental health as like an emergency situation. In a lot of ways, I feel like we're the same age. It's funny.
Yeah, that's really nice. Like your spiritual age is the same.
Oh, I definitely think so.
I love that. Well, I have a quick game, and actually it's really apt for our conversation. Because I did, like I said, I went through your Twitter and I did see that you liked reality shows.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with reality shows.
I didn't know we would talk about it so much, so this is actually perfect. But this is so you actually might know a lot of these shows, but it's a would you rather with reality dating shows. So I've just taken actual reality dating shows from all around the world, so they're not all American, and then I'm gonna just like do would you rather this or that, and they're all premises.
Is it be on it or like
no, just like you have like, okay, so I'll just give you the first one.
Okay.
So would you rather be chained to someone for 4 days or go on a first date completely naked?
I'm chained to someone for 4 days.
Yeah, that you're trying to that you're like, okay.
I like couldn't being naked on a first date feels so terrifying to me.
They would also be naked, but yes, I agree, that does sound terrifying.
I like have big boobs and I need a bra. That's just like a reality for me.
Okay.
Sorry, they're annoying. I don't want them anymore.
Yeah, that one's a real dating show called Dating Naked, and the other one is called Chains of Love, and you're chained to someone for 4 days.
No, I thought that was just like something that happens on Survivor.
Oh no, these are all dating shows.
Oh my God, give me
Okay.
another one.
Would you rather let your mom go on dates for you, so like on your behalf, or let strangers in America decide who you marry? So they pick and then you get engaged.
Wow. I think I would rather let my mom decide, even though it would be so fucking weird. My mom would just be hanging out with all of these dykes being like, how are you? So you are gay? Like whenever she says things
Like
that are,
whispered.
whenever she says anything that's like to do with queer, she'll always be like she'll talk about my sister's friends and she'll be like, Sadie went out with her girlfriend. And then she'll be like, Tessa and her girlfriend. Whatever. It's like,
That's so funny.
I love her. She's totally accepting, but also there are those little tips.
That's a very
you know?
mom thing. Yeah.
It's a very mom thing. And I think it's like something that's really hard to unlearn, you know?
That's really funny.
It's funny. So yeah, I would let my mom choose.
Okay. I think I would have to go with America for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I just feel like having like so many people vote, I feel like there might be people who voted who didn't have my best interest in mind. And as
That's
much
how I
as
feel
me
about
and my mom,
No, I'm just kidding.
as much
do
as
love
me
her,
and my
but-
mom don't agree about things, I think that at the end of the day, she would probably have my best interest in mind.
True.
But I think it would be very hard for her to tell who I would actually vibe with.
Right. So she's probably just like, how much do you like my daughter?
Yeah, exactly.
My mom, like,
And what's your job?
right, all the people I feel like my mom's liked that I've dated, I were like, it's like backwards in the order of how much I like them. She liked my first boyfriend, my college boyfriend, who was very much just a college boyfriend, but she was like, he was so tall when I broke up with him. I'm like, that's why you liked him? Okay.
Oh my God, my parents loved my ex-husband. And all my friends did not like my ex-husband. But they were just like...
Because they know you better.
Yeah.
And so they're like, he's not right.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the final one. Would you rather learn a choreographed dance and the first time you meet your date, you have to perform it with them?
I've seen this one. I've seen that one.
Or would you rather go on a date staring only at each other's genitals? That's a real dating show.
That's a real dating show?
Yeah, it's similar to the naked one, but slightly different. So I had to include them both because this one, you're just seeing each other's genitals.
Wait, so do you like go on a date and you have like whole conversations, but you're just staring at like a live feed video of the other person's
No,
junk?
I think you're in person and it's covered up. So it's called naked attraction. The other one, you are like on an island naked, so you get to do activities. So I think these are slightly different.
Yeah,
one, you are naked, but like a full person, and the other you can it's like Love is Blind, but I can see your dick. Like,
wow, that's so crazy. Definitely the dancing one. I fucking love dancing. Actually,
Yeah.
that's on the list of things that my girlfriend and I have to like watch together.
Oh my God. Those clips, I mean, I love dancing too, but I could not like stop laughing watching those clips. And I think it's coming to America, but it's a UK show. It's called Flirty Dancing. So look
It
it
is
up.
coming to America. I've
It's
researched
insane
it.
because it's just so ridiculous to like do a little dance, and they're not all dancers, so they're not all good. And that's like your first introduction to some. It's wild.
I mean, it's definitely crazy.
It's gonna be a hit if Love is Blind is a hit. Which
Oh my
it
God,
is.
I would definitely watch it. The
Yeah.
thing is that the thing that I feel like is missing from something like that for me is like, my favorite thing about reality TV shows is when like people are forced to make decisions in these like insane ways. Like, I can just look at your genitals and then I have to decide. But my favorite thing about like Love is Blind, 90 Day Fiance, all these other things is that then they have to go out into the real world and like confront what their idea of that person was and who they actually are and the differences. And like, that's what I like, is people realizing they made a bad mistake.
That's funny. Well, thank you for playing.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners where to find you.
Oh yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tessa fucking Skara.
Great handle.
And on Twitter I'm just Tessa Skara because they wouldn't let me do Tessa fucking Skara. I don't know
Twitter.
why.
What nerds?
I know. I don't use Twitter a ton, but I'm starting to use it more because I know that I should use it more. So definitely follow me on Twitter.
Follow her in both places. Follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod, and follow me at Larissa T on Twitter and Instagram. Goodbye.